All right, welcome back to Mullet Sport Racing channel.
MSR Werkz, Mullet Sport Racing. We specialize in Audis. I love these cars. It's awesome, but I also love motorsports. The Audi S4 V8 rear-wheel drive.
We're going to be working at MSR Werkz, my shop and company today. I have something kind of cool that I figured I would do a YouTube video on and show a complete walkthrough. So let's introduce you to the car. Here she is. It's the E36 M3 track car, 1995. It has an S54 swap in it, pretty much a track car most of its life. Overall, it should be a good car for the customer. This is a long-time customer of mine that I've dealt with previously at another shop. Great customer, absolutely loves BMW M cars and honestly performance cars in general. So it looks like he has got himself a yearly subscription to a local racetrack. So he bought this as a dedicated track car for himself. Came from the East Coast. So it's a fresh delivery. You got it like 2 days ago. So we're going to go through the entire car, prep it for him to go on the track. He's going to go do a track day, and then we'll start making some adjustments and see if we can pick up some lap times for him. I think there's already some things that we can change real quickly on the car to make it a lot better on the track. But the goal is just to get it prepped, gone through, and ready for the track so he can go test it out, basically do his test drive. It's weird. He already brought the car, and he's ready to do a test drive. Car that comes through the shop, if it's got hood struts, it gets a little hood strut lock. I just don't trust these older cars, or cars period. I should say these gas struts period. I've never personally had an issue with it, but I've heard horror stories of like having engine covers or parts and stuff or tools sitting in an engine bay, and these struts get weak and they fall down, and the next thing you know, you got a big dinger in the hood. So we always put hood strut locks on if it's got hood struts, and don't trust them. We want to make sure we take good care of our customers' cars. All right, so first thing we're going to do is get the car up in the air. So we get the wheels off of it and get everything underneath inspected. I kind of have my own order at doing stuff like this. I really like to basically just do a quick eyeball over the car, know what areas of attention is going to need the most, get a general idea of the car. Then we'll blow everything apart, meaning we'll take off all the wheels, belly pans, anything like that that's on the car. I doubt this one will have one, but it might have some kind of race pan on it. We'll check over all the fluids, actually start going through a checklist, but I always just like to put eyeballs on a car. I mean, maybe it's just because I like cars and I just want to look it over real quick. But if you will, I'm gonna lift up her skirt, take a quick peek before we get it all undressed, and go through it thoroughly. All right, we'll see how this turns out, but I'm basically gonna look it over with you real quickly and kind of tell you some areas. So we already have some oil residue on the motor. Looks like it's from the Vanos block. Well, shoot, I know his problem. He ain't got no AC. That's why it's a track car. Ooh. Stock engine notes. They don't have plates. It's weird. It's got an SMG plenum on it. Put this guy in Alpha N. Build a carbon airbox on my old M3. Looks okay. He did send me over a list of yeah. Suspension, in my opinion, is not nearly set up correctly in this car. Yeah, he sent me a full list of the guy's maintenance records and all that, so we'll take that in consideration. The car, it's got a divorced system back. It's way much love. So get some axles done. Like, you know what? I'll be honest. I used to absolutely hate creepers. But once I get a little bit older, I like them. Honestly, I think this shoot an FD, I'm probably gonna bring a creeper with me. I will say East Coast builds are just different. They have such a unique way of building their cars. I don't know, I just feel like they make it work versus like kind of taking the effort to like do it right. But I can't knock them because the car's running. This thing was on track. Alright, real quick look. I already see things that the car needs. We're going to knock out the checklist.
The first part of a race inspection obviously always starts with the visual. So we're gonna go over the visual front end. I'm just gonna do an example for like right front, left front, unless I find something. But yeah, so I'm gonna walk you through what I take a look at. First thing I'm looking at is any visible damage, anything that looks loose, broken, just hanging out. Looks like we got some rub marks here on the coilover, kind of to be expected with big wheels and tires. But there is a spacer on it, so I have a feeling they probably put the spacer on to make more clearance for the tire, because it looks like it was mostly tire, maybe some rim. I didn't see any visual damage on the wheels or tires up front. So once we get the wheel bolted back on, we'll check it out. Checking the rotor surface, making sure that we don't see any big cracks or any type of severe heat damage. This seems like pretty typical track stuff. So, all right, put my gloves back on because I hate getting dirty. Looking at the pad life. Make sure we got good pad life on the front. Pads look okay, got all the retaining clips. So we have our end link. Looks like the boot is torn, but doesn't look like there's any damage. No visible play in it. When we do the complete visual inspection, we'll still go through a nut and bolt, and that's really where I'll be checking to make sure that there's no play or any type of wear and tear in the suspension components or really anything. I put a wrench on everything and a paint marker it just to know that it's tight. So right now, again, I'm just looking over the visual aspect of it, something, you know, grabbing random things, just tugging on them, see if I can see anything, and we'll go from there. Obviously not super stoked about that, but it is what it is. Checking the splitter, everything seems to be attached. Looks like some homemade ducking there. These guys are all tight. We'll not bolt check those. Don't see any tears in the brake ducts. Get my head in here. These all look good. Got some rubber. Looks like maybe the wheel bearings are fairly new. Tie rod's on, not hitting that. Not super stoked about how this guy is just hanging out here. Maybe try to zip tie it or reattach it better. Looking up the strut mount. Looks like it has some wear from the spring hitting. This is kind of what I mean about it's not really the suspension setup I would like. You know, have this amount of droop and basically the spring not attached to anything is not the correct way to do it. So, paneling's still there, lower control arm looks good, got the upgraded lollipops on it, so we'll move on to the rear. Before I move on to the rear, I am going to check off the right front. I'd rather just check it off now and know that it's good, then we can go back and when we nut and bolt, if we find something, we can always correct it. So haven't checked the rack yet, but we'll do that when we go to the other side. To the rear suspension, E36 super basic rear suspension design, but it works extremely well. You got this long trailing arm, an upper control arm that buckets the spring. Again, when you do door setup, you can make this just tubular, and there's a lower camber arm that's tubular also. So not much to check here. Again, just looking at brakes, fairly stock looking brake calipers. Given the rust on this, it looks like maybe this was like a reman or refreshed caliper. Because typically they don't surface rust like this. They'll either get crusty rust or they'll just get like a light coating. So I wonder if these calipers have like been rebuilt. Looks like it's got the solid, it does, yeah, it's got the solid bushings. So there's no rubber in the floating caliper any longer. Studs look good. Axle nuts look newer, which probably means that the hubs have been replaced. Yep, looks like light surface rust on the hubs, so the hubs were probably replaced. That means it's probably got wheel bearings all the way around. We'll get underneath the car. Looks like I can see solid subframe bushings in there. These cars are notorious for cracking subframes, less so than the E46. So we'll check those. Looks like the fenders have been rolled. Really nice. I noticed this. So this is the thing with lowering these cars down too low and running big tires and stuff on them. They do run into clearance issues. So I noticed this when I pulled the wheel off. I inspected the wheel and there is rubbing on the inside of the tire. So again, another reason for my recommendation to raise the car up a little bit in the back, help some forward drive, and hopefully put down some power and get some faster track times. Rear lines, looks like the plastic coating, so for the DOT lines, is just chipping and cracking off. So I'm gonna, not a requirement, but I'm still gonna recommend lines because those are clearly old braided lines. Should be fine, but CYA. All right, back on my favorite tool in the shop currently. Here underneath the car. So this video turns out okay. So looking at parts, looks like the rear differential is just damp. We're gonna check these camber arms. Oh, look at that. You guys see that? So the arm is moving, but the heim is not. Which the lower is moving okay. The axle looks like he's put replacement axles in it. Oof. Looks like sway bar end link needs a rebuild. Got some play in that. That's what I mean about the just kind of grabbing on stuff. Alright, so subframe, this looks like it's had the factory style upgrade for the floor. I don't see any visible cracking. I wanted to look at this hind more. Sorry guys, I'm trying to do this at the same time. Yes, you see the heim's floating fine. We just need to possibly just tighten up that adjuster. End links, our sway bar bushings look okay. When you put solid mounts on these differentials, it puts a lot of strain on the cast aluminum ears. So I always just like look it over, make sure you got no cracks in the ears. Exhaust, since we're here, kind of bang on it a little bit. Look at that. We're up in the sway bar. Rear's at the softest setting, so we'll make a note of that. Yeah, we still got play in this in link too. That line's still on this side's coming apart. Look at the evenness of the brakes, fairly even inside and outside, so the caliper's not stuck. Sorry guys, I'm still trying to do my inspection. Alright, see how that heim's moving? Hopefully you guys can see it. So the adjuster's not loose on that one. Looks okay. Alright, lost my hat there for a second. Rear subframe looks okay. Front subframe looks okay. Drive shaft, not terrible. Solid mounts. Looks good. Heat shields attached. Okay. Alright, fuel lines are starting to get a little crusty there. Rubber's just trying to dry out. Sorry guys, there's not a lot of room underneath the car. Hopefully this wide view you guys can kind of see anything, or see something, and I am obviously playing with the flashlight. E-band looks okay. Okay. Guibo, not so good. Pretty massive cracking on it. Not stoked about those fuel line orientation. Shifter looks okay. Whew. A lot of play in the upper. Yeah, on the upper shaft coupler. Alright, made the shift shaft seal, got a little bit of leakage. Not too bad trans-wise. Oof. Stoked on that. Lack of exhaust donut. It is double nutted, that's kind of nice. Alright. It's got a pretty hot rod clutch on this thing, just moving in and out of the shop, it freaking hits. Nice headers. Oil doesn't look too bad. Kind of look at the typical E46 leak parts because it says the E36 M3 motor. So the drain plug's leaking just a little bit. I need to check fluid levels. Woo! That's not good. That is a hanging power steering leak. Alright, we're definitely going to need to address that. Looks like potentially 2 leaks. I wonder what that is. That looks like oil. Right, oil cooler looks good. That's not good either. Hanging coolant drip. Looks like that might be from the drain plug, hopefully. I don't see anything wet higher. Alright. Steering shaft bushing looks okay. This side of the motor looks okay. Wrap up the starter, looks okay. Alright, I'm gonna get out from underneath the car.
Alright, pretty much got the full drivetrain, suspension, all that stuff looked at. I was building the quotes and that for it, but need to move on to the interior now. So we are going to be checking all the interior components for safety functionality. And then we need to check all of the lights around, and you guys are going to help me do it because I don't have a helping hand here. I need to check all the brake lights and running lights and all that, so I'm going to do it via the camera. Alright, so just safety wise, not super stoked on this, but it's kind of functional. But checking the handles, latches, make sure that they are working functional tight. Mirrors attached, not going to fall off. See if we can adjust it. I was going to say, and tickle the glass too. Sometimes the glass will vibrate. It's really hard to see if you're going to make a pass or even just around the pits and that. So check steering play looseness. We're also going to bolt check all of these. Move on to the electronics and that. But harnesses mounted correctly, in date, which I believe these things are out of date. Yep. Way out of date. Probably not required for his racing series and that, but it's pretty old and semi-dry. Yeah, they're not too bad. Alright. Check the padding on the cage. We're going to check handbuck functionality on a test drive. I know the shifter's got a little bit of play in it, but works. I know the gauges work just for moving in and out. Not stoked about the rear view mirror. I think it needs a wink style mirror, just because it's hard to see out of with the cage and all that. Cage is all super nice. Don't really need to check that over. We'll check the tightness on the seat bolts. Bolt check those, make sure those are good. Center console, just want to make sure that stuff's just not going to fly off and fly at the customer while you're driving. Everything looks good there. BMWs are notorious for wobbly pedals, which this one's got a little bit of play, but it feels like they've updated the bushings. That one's got a little bit of play also. It's a swapped car. Make sure the throttle pedal's tight. It's tight. Yeah. Move on to lights. Alright, so got some work approved on the M3 race car. So I'm going to get those parts knocked out now, get the nut and bolt completed, and tomorrow going to the track to support this customer at MSR Werkz' first track support day. So I'm really excited about going to the track and offering track support. It's been my goal with the MSR Werkz to offer track support to customers. One, I love being at the track. Two, I think I'd be hugely beneficial to making sure that cars stay on track, cars stay healthy, and then obviously make setup changes and try to better some lap times. So follow along, and we'll see how tomorrow goes.